a bolt of lightning came. Were you at least a bit surprised when angels spoke your name? They said it's you who puts the gravity in the ground. They said it's you who all the stars revolve around. Scientists were wrong and you suspected all along it might be true. The world belongs to you. No one escapes the things they've done, a fate that fits the crime. You've got a plan for everyone. Where do you find the time? Because it's you dancing the planets on a string, and it's you who's got to handle everything. There'll be hell to pay unless we all behave the way you want us to. The world belongs to you. From inside these limousines, the world is looking darker every day. And you wonder if that means when you close your eyes, it goes away, it goes away. Tie up your loose ends one by one, your time is almost through. Even your angels think you're done, they roll their eyes at you. Because it's you who's getting bigger every day, and it's you who's gonna drive them all away. As they turn to go, you can forgive them, for they know not what they do. The world belongs to you.
Holding your hands, I flew. Stars are bright, the skies are blue. I love you the whole night through. Near or far, wherever you are, your love touches
You measure my faults, you measure my tears, you measure my life, years and years. You measure my hope, you measure my faith, you measure my life. What to say? All this time I wake up, you hear me, and all my rhymes, you don't even listen to what I say. You measure my fear, you measure my hope, you measure my life, you measure my soul, you measure my faith in the size of grace. Measure my seed in heaven's place, and you will, and you will, and you will be on the side of the glass magnifies you. Measure my fear, measure my hope, measure my tears. Oh, you measure my soul, measure my life, measure my faith, measure my soul in heaven's place. You do, you do. You do, you do, no. But if I was wrong and I took all my songs and I sang them for you, you'd listen. How would you ever come back? In my soul, on my side, how I feel. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I sad in here? Just singing alone, just singing alone. And you took all my faith and you threw it away, and you said I would never become what you thought I would now. But it's right and it's wrong, and I hate everything, and I mostly hate this song. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. You measure my fear, you measure my soul, you measure my heart, you measure my fault, you measure my faith, a commonplace. You measure my strength by the friends that I make. You do, you do. You do now. do know? But if I was here, would you throw me a line and I whisper to you? Would you take me down? Would you do that? And I woke up this morning and I turned away, and I don't know what to say because you've got my tongue now. But if I was here, would you throw me a line and I'll wait for you, dear, a long, long time, just to satisfy you. But if I wrote the song for you to be with me, you'd never know. You'd never know. You'd never know. You'd never know.
Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in his student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Show X on Twitch. What are we officially? Twitch.tv/VTW Show X, and our YouTube channel, which I believe is VTW Shows? Or
Versus the World Videos.
Oh, Versus the World Videos on YouTube. That's the one. That's the one. I need to get that down, as that's kind of the spiel now, as what we are doing lively. But everybody, welcome at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT. On this Sunday, the 17th of November, 2019. Welcome to the show, everybody. And again, it's funny because during our intro there, I mentioned to Ken that we now more than ever need to update, adjust, and fix our intro and come up with some new spiel because I think everything in it is pretty much out of date now. No longer is appropriate.
Well, it was funny. Because, the original joke with you, the white van, obviously, that's kind of just gone, right? That was an Ocktail Hordak days type thing that kind of led into show.
Oh, gosh, that was so long ago.
10 episodes. And so that was long, that's long been needing replaced, right? Then there was the part about me being a student in Scotland. Like, that was fine from 2009 to 2013. I then went to full-time work for 2 years, and we had the same intro. I then went and did my PhD, which made it legitimate again. You know, I was a student in Scotland again. But then the past 4 months, I've just been employed. So again, it's wrong again. And now I don't live in Scotland anymore. So it's just massively wrong.
Well, considering where you're at now, because I'm assuming you must be Midwest time. Is that correct? And an hour difference from was. Ooh, what did you just do to your video?
So I was going to try and join the Twitch. Is the video still on? Or is
it is on, but now you are in a horizontal stretched means that looks all kind of funky because it somehow decided now that your camera needs to still be in portrait mode, but while your phone is in landscape, or I'm not sure how you have it set it up. There we go.
I can
It is so confused.
Oh God, now it's falling. So for those who may have noticed, I don't have all my professional kit as I had planned to. Okay, now it's far too high up. Basically what happened was...
I know what I know what's going on my end, and I'm trying to decide if I want to fix it. I had forced your video to do 16:9, but because you turned it up, it switched it. There we go. There we go.
I just won't join the Twitch chat. Sorry, guys. You'll just tell me what's going on there.
Well, right off the bat, just as we go ahead and get things going today, we might as well start off with our
dysfunctional deviations.
To let you, Ken, talk a little bit about the fact that you're now in the Midwest and you have crossed the pond for an extended period of time. I would happily like to say to while on the air to you, welcome to the good old United States of America as a, professional now, as you're going to be spending a work life here for some time.
I'm here on a scholarly visa. That's what it is. It's a scholar visa. So I think that makes me a scholar, which is kind of a cool title. So I'll take that. Thank you very much. People have been so nice here, actually. Whenever I tell people I'm from Scotland and I've just arrived, everybody's like, "Oh wow, that's crazy! Welcome to the USA!" And I'm like, "Thank you so much." In fact, the strangest occurrence was yesterday. I visited Lansing, which is the capital city of Michigan, right? So I visited there yesterday. I went there by bus, which was super cheap, by the way. I couldn't believe how cheap that was. I was like, wow, in Scotland this would be like 8 times the price at least.
Oh no. We don't have a lot of great public transportation here, but the stuff we do have is not that expensive. It's just usually hard to come by.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't reliable. I mean, it was supposed to be there every 8 to 15 minutes, it said, and I waited like 35. So.
It's like, no.
It's fine if you don't have any like schedule and you just get in there whenever. That's fine.
I mean, they try, but that if there was no traffic on the road, if no person was waving down the bus as they were trying to rush up and get there late, or as every situation like that did not occur, maybe the buses and such would all be on schedule.
So I've got so many things I can talk about. So at any point, feel free to just
Well-
say like, Ken, shut up. We've heard enough about your this
Oh no,
already."
absolutely. So if for people who don't know, and I need to make like its own break intro pieces, Ken and I have talked about wanting to do little micro episodes, essentially to kind of help you as viewers know what you're getting when you tune in, and what section we're on. I absolutely want to make a little side break that is all about Ken's adventures in America, and as I put it even in our notes that you don't get to see today, is Coming to America, Scottish edition. And so
How confused is Ken this week?
Exactly.
Is he less confused?
I
More
believe
confused?
this is going to be an entertaining segment of the show as we go forward, and I expect it'll happen for over time. That we're going to have our initial impressions, and then as you run into new Americanisms, new United States things that are very unique to us from your comparison, I can't wait to hear those.
There's so many little things. Like, okay, here's a very minor thing. I'll go back to my original story in a second. But when you cross the road, okay, first of all, in the UK, if you are crossing, you have right of way. Like, cars will stop and you get to go. If they cross, that's a huge no-no.
I mean,
They will never cross the crossing. Pedestrians always get right of way. Here, pedestrians are like, if you cross, you will die. Then people don't stop.
legally, pedestrians have the right of way in crosswalks and on sidewalks. However, there's a challenge in that in any area where there is not primary pedestrian traffic, meaning cities where only a handful of people are walking, especially in areas and bigger roads and such where you may only see a pedestrian one every, 2 or maybe once a week if you're lucky. Yeah, drivers are less likely to adhere to the idea that pedestrians have right of way.
That's another point. When I'm walking around, I see very few other people. It's I see a couple of guys on bikes. Usually they're just students, or in fact, usually it's Asian students. Interestingly enough, so it's me and a bunch of Asian students. So I think it's people who are out of country, right? So it's me and my fellow foreigners who are walking around here. Me and my fellow minorities. We're walking around and kind of confused days, not understanding why we need a car. When I'm crossing the road, like, not only is it very dangerous, and I don't just look like left and right. I look everywhere. I'm looking all around. I don't trust anybody, man. I don't trust the drivers here. And one of the weird, it's like a tiny little thing, but I've noticed that when a driver is nice and lets me go, instead of going like this, like cross, go that direction, they do this.
Yeah, like, go ahead, come on.
I thought that was come fight me.
Oh no! No!
Bring it.
It's an
right?
invitation to say, like, no, you come ahead, right? You go ahead and pass. We do that.
I realized by the fact they were smiling, right? The person was like, "Yeah, come on, it's all right." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He's not saying "let's fight." He's saying, "Yeah." So that was a tiny little misinterpretation of bodily communications, physical communication. Right. So the original story I embarked upon was I took the bus yesterday to Lansing, and the bus driver was so kind. I went on and I was like, "Hey man, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to get to Lansing. How do I do it?" And he was like, "Oh, it's no problem, brother. Here we go. I'll help you out." And I was like, "This guy's nice." I was expecting like a lot of bus drivers in Scotland would sort of roll their eyes like, "Oh my God, how dare you not understand the bus system? You are a fool." But here they were just so kind, and he was like, "Put your money in here, it's no problem," and it was great. He was just so kind and nice, and he even let me on for student fare, even though I said to him I was staff. He was like, "Don't worry about it, it's your first time."
Nice.
I was like, "Oh, it's
nice."
Then later on, we're on the bus as well, and this older gentleman who was in a wheelchair was trying to get on. So the bus driver got up and was like holding back some of the seats to let the wheelchair guy sit in that now vacant area.
In that area for the wheelchair, yes.
Yeah, he was holding up. And so I was like, "Oh man, this guy's trying to pull up this ramp by himself in a wheelchair," and he was struggling, and he was like going forward and back down the ramp again and again. And I was like, "This is kind of awkward. I'm gonna go help the guy." So I got up and I was like, "Excuse me, I'm just gonna go give him a hand." And I went past the bus driver. The bus driver was like, "No, don't do that. It's crazy." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went and sat down again. Yeah, the guy was crazy. He was nuts. He got bus and he was like, I was like, okay, glad I didn't. Yeah.
There's an unfortunate side path to what may be a desirement of yours to be helpful and neighborly and good to others around you that I will not advise you not to be so, but I will advise you to be a little extra wary of any situation you run into as to whether someone truly needs assistance, whether they would appreciate assistance, and I would almost always ask ahead of time, and whether a situation may be a bait for a less positive interaction.
So I think the second one was most appropriate there. That's what the bus driver said to me. He went, first of all, he's crazy. He said he won't like getting help. He doesn't want your help. I was like, okay. I was like, clearly this guy knows him. And so he's a regular, right? So I was like, okay, clearly this has happened before. I know if I see him in the future, it's fine. Now, the culture of the people on the bus was super interesting. So in Scotland, and in England, from what I've experienced, if you get on the bus, nobody talks. You can talk on the phone, that's fine, but nobody talks to each other. You don't comment on what you see. You either stare into oblivion, or you play on your phone, or you read a book or something. Like, that's it. You don't talk to each other. This bus was just full of people chatting to each other, which was really nice. But what was really funny was the bus turned into the bus station at the end, and there's this woman standing there with her kid. And the kid started running across the road, and half of the bus went, "Oh my God, you crazy mother! What are you doing? What are you doing?" And they were like calling on her, like, "Why are you? Like, she's a terrible mother." And it was just so funny. I was like, I can't like, she must have heard half of them. And in Britain, that would be the most awkward thing. Like, I felt myself going red. Like, she'll have heard you guys. She'll know that you said that.
That's the point.
They didn't care. It's like shouting at her. You're a crap mob. That's like, what the hell? I just couldn't believe it. I was mortified. I was just I was so against how we would treat that situation.
People
we would all look away.
People in the States are far more likely to express themselves than in most countries you will ever go to. Like, there are those who absolutely will ride public transport and mostly hang to themselves. Those are the ones who either just have a heck of a day or just commuting, and that's because they must, or because it's those like me who will get on the trains or the buses on rare occasion just because we've made that decision versus traditionally driving our own vehicles. I have found that the people who tend to be chatty, and it depends also which cities you're in, tend to be the ones who this is their everyday convenience, like this is how they commute, right? They see the same people every day. And so because of that, they become very comfortable just interacting with those people. Or they're like vagrants who just are on the public transport because nobody's actually pushing or throwing them off, and they are kind of like the crazy one. Those happen a lot too.
There's a couple other guys who came on, and they were chatty and nice. Now I wasn't talking to them. I was doing my British thing, playing on my phone and trying to ignore everybody. But I noticed that these two guys were standing in front of me chatting, and they were just talking about, I don't know, actually they're talking the latest football game that was taking place with the university or something. And I thought they were just a couple of guys getting a trip somewhere, and I looked down and saw they weren't wearing any shoes, and that their trousers were all ragged, and I was like, oh, these guys are probably homeless. And this is probably like they probably paid this bus trip to get in beg in town, and that's kind of sad because it was super cold last night. Actually, it was -7 outside, -8, which I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Like 25, something like that.
Yeah, it's below freezing. So it's nice and chill.
Yeah, it was pretty cold, and I was like, I would not want to be homeless right now in this weather. Like, it's nice and clear. There's no rain. There's no wind or anything. That seems to be the norm here. But it's very cold, and there's snow on the ground. So I felt kind of bad that and that's why I sort of realized is that in the UK, you're right what you said, everybody will use the bus, but from what I've seen, at least in Michigan, it tends to be the lower class people and students.
In general, the way public transport will happen is it depends on the density of the city you're in. If you're in major cities, things like, New York, Chicago, Boston, any of these places where it is more of a hassle and challenge to drive your personal vehicle somewhere, and it's dense enough and the public transport is there enough that you will see it fairly regular and such, you will have people who commute constantly. Whereas in cities like here in Denver, where I'm at, and I assume most of Michigan, and such in these kind of especially Midwest and rural type cities or very sprawled out cities, most people are going to pretty much take their public transportation or only if they have to. Like they will take their personal car almost everywhere. And in many cases, even then, they won't even walk unless it's within however many blocks of where they live, right? Once it becomes that it's a 20, 30-minute walk, why not just drive, be there in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and come back?
It's funny you say that. When I was in Lansing itself yesterday, I was looking at this little map. There was like a, you are here kind of thing. And I was trying to work out what's nearby. Oops, there goes my phone. I was just trying to work out what was nearby and everything. And I saw that it had this little circle around and it said walking distance. And it was like a block, just one block. That's walking distance. Like if you go outside that 50-meter radius, you should take a car. I was like, that's a terrible message for the government to be like selling on its citizens here. I mean, maybe it's based on reality of what most people think, but I don't think that's a good thing to tell people.
Well,
I mean, day to day so far, I've been here since Thursday, right? So I've been here 3 nights so far, and I found myself I've been walking pretty much everywhere. My first night I had a rental, so I drove from. That's a story in itself. I drove from Detroit to here. Which was about 100-mile drive or something, which was fine. And that took me about an hour and a half, and it was rush hour, and it just got dark, and I was obviously driving the right-hand side instead of the left. And it was fine. I had no problem driving. It was quite easy. But since I've been here and walking everywhere, I've been doing like 20 to 30,000 steps a day. Just because I want to go see, like there's a outside mall nearby. I wanted to go visit that. Today I went to go see the Whole Foods. That was where I went this morning. Because I've been kind of, it sounds dumb, but in the UK, maybe I'm being prejudiced.
Oh no. I cannot wait for your description of Whole Foods and why you went and things like that, because I have anecdotal things to add to it depending on what you say, but I'm very curious.
Well, I was actually going to say the opposite. I was going to say what I saw on the first day. Well, I guess my first full day was Walmart. I went there straight away in the morning to go buy furniture.
Oh, that's got everything,
right? Oh, it was great. It was amazing. I got this coffee maker that's next to me. I can't believe this. Like,
wait. Show me the coffee maker, and I'm going to make an assumption. Okay, so nice glass. Oh, is it a certain brand or, just? I'm going to guess. Okay, I'm going to guess $15.
It was $9.99. So in the UK, if you got one that size, that would be about 25-30 pound, which is about $50, right? Like, because you just don't get machinery, you don't get electronics that size for anything like that. That just doesn't happen. Maybe if you got a charity shop and it's been donated, but even then they don't sell electronics, they're not allowed to. Right? It would be really tough to find that. Maybe if a friend gave it to you for that price, that'd be it. So that was crazy. So Walmart, I really struggled to find like the fresh fruit and veg that I would normally buy that is good. I was severely disappointed by the fresh fruit and veg section. In fact, I thought it was pretty much non-existent.
Their produce section is a generalized, you can get core things here in the produce section. Yes.
So I went to Whole Foods today, and
that's a different story.
It was like, yeah, I don't know what half these vegetables are anymore, because I've never seen them before in my life. And that was kind of fun to see. I was going around the store and I was Googling some stuff on my phone, like, what's this? What's that used for? And it was kind of interesting, I also went to the Oriental Mart, which was, so we have like Chinese stores in Stirling, my previous town. But it's like, well, it's with the size of my apartment, right? And that's for the whole city. That's the maximum you get. This place was like the size of, well, half the size of the Walmart I went to. And it was crazy. They had these like giant fish tanks full of live fish that you could just point at one and they'd get out for you and slaughter it in front of you. So it's super fresh. Blew my mind. Just everything's there. But anyway, yeah. So my thoughts on Whole Foods were basically that it's got an amazing range, and that's clearly where the upper middle class shop. Because I was looking at the prices and I was like, even in the UK, that would be considered steep. And that's my first experience of that so far in the US, where something's more expensive than I would expect.
Yeah, almost everything else you would probably find less expensive. Whole Foods, Sprouts, other stores like that are considered the more natural grocers will have a premium to shop there. It does cost more for most of the goods, even for things that you can find both at Whole Foods and at traditional supermarkets and such.
I bet it's the same brands, yeah.
Yeah, you are paying a bit of a premium shopping there. Now, what's interesting to me, and I'll be curious how you go forward with it, is all of my foreign friends that tend to work around where I work and such, that I get to interact with, live in a very similar area close to downtown Denver, and within a convenient location from, I believe, I haven't really checked their distance, from a Whole Foods, because whenever they go shopping, or whenever they come to parties or things like that, everything they bring is from Whole Foods. And so I believe they do almost all of their shopping there. And that has been true across the board for almost every one of our friends that come in from overseas that work around us, is that they tend to prefer Whole Foods as where they shop. And I think a lot of it has to do with like what you said about the produce and kind of things like that compared to what they're used to.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than what I'm used to, right? Like when I went in there, like, there's a section for the various different types of grains that you can get there, completely fresh grains that you weigh it yourself, you get the scoop and everything. And they had like 5 varieties of quinoa. I thought there was only like, I thought quinoa was like a standalone thing. I didn't know that there was other like different types. So yeah, it's super fancy, and it was way. No, I'm sorry. As much as I would love to be able to shop there, I don't. And even if I could maybe afford to, I would still have to like plan my shops very carefully, and then I wouldn't be able to afford anything else. I don't think I will see the justification there. So I don't really know what I'm going to do in terms of food. I'm probably going to order online, like at Walmart or something. But so I walked around Walmart my first day. Let me talk about that a little bit. That was a funny experience.
Actually, could we, Ken, just to give people a little bit of progression on your travels over, because one of the things we've been ignoring completely, or haven't talked to, is the fact that you are broadcasting today from your phone.
Oh, sure. Context. Yes. Okay.
So about the original coming to America. Yes, Ken. How was it just even getting here?
It was easy until I got here. So booking travel, etc., was no problem. I've flown before. I've done long flights before. That's all fine. I mean, I hate flying, right? I absolutely hate flying, but I managed to do it. I took a sleeping pill, but I didn't manage to sleep on the way here, so I was just drowsy most of the way. It wasn't most enjoyable. I went through Edinburgh security, and I made the mistake of, well, what you're supposed to do is you take your laptop out of your bag, you put it on top of your other stuff, and then it gets x-rayed, right? So, and that laptop has to be on top. That's the rule. So I did that. I got my box back, and I packed everything, and I left. And I flew from Edinburgh to Amsterdam. So I went east, and then from Amsterdam I flew west over to Detroit, and then I eventually drove here. I got back to my apartment. I made my inflatable mattress inflated. I slept, and all was well. Except before I slept, I decided to take out my laptop to charge some of my devices, and I found that it was not there. So turns out, however this happened, I have no idea. I only had one box. It wasn't exactly like hard to make sure it's empty. Like I don't know how I did this, but I must have left the laptop in the box, or maybe I took it out temporarily while I was trying to move things around and forgot about it. I really don't know what happened, but somehow I lost my laptop. Which was a bit of a blow because I only got it last year, and it's good enough to play all the games I like, and most importantly, it has so much of the data that I used during my PhD. It has so many files that I'd really be sad to lose, and so on. So I was really quite gutted with the fact, with myself, and really kicking myself. I messaged Wayne straight away, like, I lost my laptop. I feel bad. I was just so sad.
Dude, no, I felt for you. I equate it as close as you can to literally like losing your phone, right? It is a device that has so much attached to it, at least for kind of like all of us who not only utilize it just for regular browsing of the internet and maybe purchasing things, stuff like that, but for entertainment, for actual creation of things, and for you as an academic and one working in the field for so much of what you're doing with work as well. It's not just, it's not just a simple device to enter things.
It's not a functional device, personal thing, right?
Yes.
Especially a phone, though, to be fair. I think a phone is like, it's the electronic personification of yourself, right? I mean, and every app inside it is tailored to you, and it's been melded by you over the years. So it's very sad when you lose your phone or when you lose your laptop. So yeah, I lost my laptop and I was absolutely gutted. I really felt terrible the first night, which was really sad. I managed to get all the way here from Scotland to Michigan. I drove in for an hour and a half in a completely alien system to me that my only preparation for was a 50-minute like Google to try and learn how to drive.
How to drive in the United States.
That's pretty much it. It was for a UK citizen, right? So it sort of translated for me, which was nice. And it was fine, right? It was really no problem. It's actually quite easy to drive here. I think people get too stressed out with the idea of it when in reality it's actually quite simple.
We have very big roads. Very big, very open roads.
I got honked at once, and it was because I drifted into the next lane. Because naturally, I'm on the right-hand side of the car normally. So normally when you're far too much right, it's a good thing.
It's where you naturally feel you are in the lane based on the size of the car. And so the concern you have is with any driver who naturally tries to put themselves towards the middle of the lane, because now they're hanging part of their car on the edge of the lane. And so it's understanding that space. So when you go to the opposite side, and I know what you mean, when I drove in Japan, there's this natural tendency that's like, wait, I'm used to all of the car being on one side versus the other. And so when I'm looking at making this corner or something like that, I have to mentally like truly believe and think, I have to take this wider because my normal when I turn this way is to go real sharp, but I am not doing that.
Well, it's also because you've got this mental pathway that you've built over the years of this is what happens when I drive. You don't even think about it, right? How many times have you been driving somewhere and you just sort of like, oh, I'm here, and you don't even remember like driving. Like it's just so terrifying that your subconscious can take entire control of the vehicle for you, and that kind of tries to take over frequently. It tries to say like, okay, you should move over this way. And you start to do it, and that's what I did. Is I just trusted my subconscious too much. The fact that I'd been awake for 30 hours probably didn't help either, mind you. I took a sleeping pill 15 hours before, so I was super drowsy, but I was okay. Clearly, so I did drift at one point. It was very slight. I was only just over the line, but this guy was like massive car, just a big honk, and I was like, oh god! And so from the rest of the journey, I was absolutely like. I just watched my positioning the whole time.
Little ting of adrenaline at that moment to kind of keep you alert.
It helps keep you awake and alert, right? So that's how I lost my laptop. The good news is that this morning I got a message from my cousin's wife who works in security at the airport. And basically she said that she was planning on checking the CCTV for me and making sure that to find out either who stole it or where it went, right? Because it might just been tucked away somewhere, or maybe somebody picked it up and took it with them, in which case they could hand over to the police and then that would be an investigation. I was like, this is great having inside contacts, right? But thankfully she managed to just say, yep, it's in lost and found now. Just here's this transaction ID or whatever, just call them with that number and then they get it sorted. So it's being shipped over now. So
awesome.
Hopefully I'll have it by next week. There's no promises though. It depends on shipping. It depends on if I imagine that the United States Postal Service will try to deliver between 9 and 5 when I'm not in. So we'll see.
That can become its own. Well, it can become its own challenge. Hopefully that's something that'll require a signature. At which point, if you're not there, they'll try once or twice. They'll leave a sticky on your door on your box, depending on how you get your mail. And then you can either nice thing is usually that day between when they deliver and when they close the office, you can often go in and request your package directly. If not, they may try to redeliver it. So yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. One thing in the States that I will give us credit for is compared to most places I've seen, our post is pretty good. Minus when you have local deliverers who might put things on wrong people's doorsteps. But beyond that, the actual speed at which most things ship and how it all works tends to go okay. But no, that's harrowing. Sucks that it's lost. Awesome that it was found, recovered, and is on its way to you. Hopefully it will make it to you swiftly and without any kind of too much ding damage or otherwise, and you'll be sorted. So good luck for that.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Because as it stands right now, well, let me just pick this up so it doesn't look so messy. Let me show you what my. No, I'm not going to give you a tour or anything, but I'll give you a quick overview of what my apartment looks like. I don't know how to turn my camera around on Skype here, so let me be a noob here. Oh wait!
Hey, there we go. There we go.
My apartment has a bin, a PlayStation which has no TV,
Nice,
or controller, or games really, and a couple of stools. So that's pretty much my apartment right now. I mean, yeah, there's like a bunch of kitchenware and stuff.
Ooh,
that's
nice
not
cabinetry.
Oh yeah, it is very nice. So I don't really have much in the way of furniture. It's that, and as I said, my blow-up mattress. That's literally it, right? This is my apartment. So without my laptop, I have had no way to really entertain myself at all. Because I didn't. All I brought was one suitcase, so I said to myself, like, it's fine. I've got my laptop. I don't need anything else. I can both work and play, and I can watch films. I can play games, whatever. It's all fine, right? And then I lost my laptop, so all I've really had is my phone. So I've been going since Thursday with just my phone for entertainment. Thankfully, I'm also in a completely new place, right? So I also have an entire new country to explore. So that's been pretty interesting. I've just been doing a lot of walking and everything, and that's been the most fun for me. So the other thing I was going to talk about was regarding Walmart.
Yes.
I took lots of pictures.
I say the magic that is Walmart. That coming from Scotland and your assumption of what a big box store is. Because I remember when we were in Glasgow. And you took me down to your local store, and I don't recall the name of it, but I remember just even this. What was it?
Morrison's.
Even just the size of it, right? Because I remember walking down lovely path between the houses and such. A little more of a hike than I am normally used to get to a store when you know you're going to be carrying things back. And so it was kind of like, oh, okay. But getting down there and going in and looking around like, okay, all right, it's a shop. It's got a variety of things. It did have electronics, had televisions. I think I remember commenting that the largest TV I think they were selling was like a 42-inch television or something like that. It was expensive. I looked at it like, dang. And so I remember things like that, and that there weren't many options beyond. Where when you travel into and you see a Walmart, which admittedly in the United States there is everything from your traditional everyday, actually there's 3 variations now officially I'd say. There is your Walmart, was it Market or so, which is their small, where they've put them into little local city center areas where they don't have enough space for a full-on Walmart, but primarily focuses on foods with some of the kind of necessities. So it's like just the food section of a Walmart, somewhat condensed, that they have that. To their traditional Walmart stores where they start out, to when they have the land and people around it, the super centers of the massive Walmarts that you can find. So between all those, tell us about your excursion into Walmart.
So yeah, I took lots of photos of the most absurd things to send to my friends and family. So when I first arrived, I had my rental car, right? So it wasn't just a case of I had to carry things in my backpack like I've been doing since.
You didn't have to go all Death Stranding on this with everything you purchased. You actually had a transport to be able to take with you. Gotcha.
Good reference. No, I had my car. It was a Chevy, by the way. I've never driven a Chevy before, but that was fun. It was automatic as well, which is also weird to me. Anyway, so I was walking around with this giant trolley. First of all, oh my god, the size of your trolleys here it's just insane.
Our shopping baskets, yes.
Like the metal we use in the UK for trolleys, like you can stand on it and break. The stuff you guys use looks like you could like put somebody inside it and lock it, and they'd be there forever. It's just funny. Probably because there's so much more you carry in the big shops, I guess. So I walked around the Walmart and I was looking at the essentials. I picked up, tea towels, cutlery, pots and pans, plates, coffee maker, sort of all the essentials, right? And I went to the electronics section because at this point I'd known I'd lost my laptop and I wanted to think about possible prices of getting a new one. And also, I want to get a TV at some point because obviously I'm starting from. As I've been describing it, this is my new game plus here, right? This is I'm not starting from 18-year-old. I don't have a job kind of thing. I am slightly further ahead in life, but it does feel like I'm starting again, but with some extra stats. That's kind of what it feels like. So I looked at some TVs and stuff as well, and I was like, oh my God, I could probably just get the biggest thing in here, but for the same price as what I spent back home for something half as good. So I was looking at the 72-inch 4K HDR, and I was like, oh my God. That's the photo I sent you, actually. It was like $600. I couldn't believe it. Oh my God.
Well, because the one you were looking at was what, a 75-inch?
Yep. And as I said, my 52-inch TV at home was worth like 200 on top of that, then pounds. So it was not only the terrible translation between, it's madness. So you'd effectively been paying double for not even nearly as good a TV back in Britain. It's madness. And when I was looking at this and being like already mystified by the difference in prices for technology, something alerted my brain, like, warning, something weird's happening, something strange. I was like, oh, what's that? Well, what's that subconscious? I looked over to my left, and I saw the hunting and gun section. And there was just like 30 shotguns, 50 rifles, just out. Now you can go and touch them.
Yeah.
And the cheapest one that I saw was like $180 for a rifle.
Oh, for a rifle. Okay, so you should be able to get a shotgun for about $98 or $100 for a shotgun.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my God. And then I saw the archery stuff. That was madness as well. I was like, holy crap. There's just like, not just like, here's a bow. There's a couple of those. But there was like, that was like $70 for just a bow. But then there was like the tactical camouflaged, sub-primed
actual hunting. Yeah, actual hunting compound bow.
Madness. And yeah. And then I didn't take any photos there because I thought that might look weird. I didn't want to, like, I don't know, alert security or anything and be taking photos of guns. Because in the UK, if you even, like, I don't know, I
nobody would have even bat an eye.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I talked to one. I'm not going to say who. I talked to a person in that store, who I didn't know. And I just said, hey, I just arrived from Scotland last night. I'm just mystified by this. I just said, it's crazy. And this guy just responded. He was this older guy. He's like, yeah, it's madness. I can't believe they sell these things. It's disgusting. And I was like, I did not ask for your political opinion, sir. But all right.
Ha! You opened that door right there.
I didn't at all. I just said, it's just I just haven't seen this before. It's really crazy to see it all. It is. It's just a weird thing, right? It's like when I go through the airport, I see all the police with their handguns. I'm like, whoa, we don't have that in the UK. Like, seeing weaponry. Like, I saw weaponry on the firing range. That's it, right? It doesn't get carried around, Yeah, there's my phone again. Sorry. So yeah, I saw this weaponry. I thought it was crazy, and I took a photo of one thing though, and it was a picture of a machete because. You can't buy machetes in the UK.
No,
they're not just for sale. You
wait,
don't have
how do you clear out brush? I don't understand.
You just use like a chainsaw, I guess, but most people don't have that problem. Like nobody just has like wild brush as an issue. Like it's just not a thing that happens to that extent. And if it is, you'll use a chainsaw or something, and that's just something you use. That's the norm. A machete is madness, and this was like a hunting machete. And then I saw the skinning knives. And then I saw the hunting knives. I don't know what those are for. They're just like chase down the deer yourself.
Well, no. Hunting knife is both for personal protection, and when you actually catch the animal, most will actually process the initial carcass out on the field because it's much easier to take bits home than it is an entire carcass. And then if you don't have processing at home, so a lot of people will actually do a lot of the meat processing and pull the skin out while still in the field. Plus, a hunting knife in general is just in general if you're needing to do everything, be it make your own meal, clean, not just while hunting, but just camping, that aspect of going out in the field with it, to having to cut line, to anything you might need to do in an emergency.
So in the UK, you can buy knives, right? Obviously, you buy knives, like you need it for food. And you can also buy like razor sharp knives and stuff if you need to, usually for construction work and that kind of thing. But generally speaking, anything else is kind of hard to get a hold of. Like we do have Swiss Army knives, but again, you're not allowed to carry one anyway, unless it's got quite a short blade.
Because
less than 1.5.
for us, you can take most up to what 3.5-inch blades, pretty much anywhere in the States. Because even at where I work in a secure facility, you can bring a 3.5-inch knife. Anything over that, and especially fixed blades, tend to be where they start to say no to, other than traveling in like planes and such. But yeah, no, you can go to Walmart and pick yourself up a machete for like $10. Let alone you want to get one of the nicer, like really well sorted ones for like 20.
Well, I remember a couple of years ago, the bridge right outside Westminster in London, right outside our government building, a guy with a machete started attacking people, and I think he killed like 3 or 4 people. And this made news for weeks because how the hell did he get a machete? Like, you don't get those in the UK. It was like, how did he get this crazy weapon? And that's a terrifying idea. This guy walking around with a machete, just cutting down people. There's just no defense against it. What do you do? And then just to see it in a shop there was just mind-boggling. It was just like, I don't understand the purpose. Like, sure, why can't you use like normal gardening tools? Like most people, machetes are kind of extreme, aren't they?
They're very useful. A cheap, sharp piece of metal. Take care of anything you might need to. Hack off tree branches, heavy weeds, things like that.
Then there's the price of all of these. So a good Swiss Army knife is at least 30-40 pounds, right? Like at least. And I saw some of these like hunting knives that were like serrated. They were like combat knives. Some had camo on them. They were tactical or whatever.
Yeah.
A knife with a scope on it. And you could get these for like, you could buy like 4 in a pack for like $10.
Yep.
I was like, what the hell? What the hell is this place?
Because those,
crazy.
When you're in the hunting section, all of those items are designed as tools. And so they're really sought after as tools. And because the people who normally would carry them would use them for things throughout their everyday existence, right? Instead of having to go find a proper set of like shears or something like that, they have this knife that they'll use for pretty much every kind of task of cutting, sharpening, doing, or, anything we might need to cut. And so that's the thing. For us in the United States, we definitely see those kind of things as more, they are just tools. And so that's why you'll find them at Walmart like that as not a big deal. You're not going to see a samurai sword there or something like that, but you're going to see some pretty hefty knives and things like that throughout and such.
I can't say I'd be surprised if that was the case. Sorry if my camera's going weird. I'm
trying
to find a specific picture to talk about. Also, as well as like the hunting section and everything, I took some other photos that I found were quite funny and interesting. First of all, the picture, I took a picture of the shop TJ Maxx, because in the UK that's TK, and that was just quite confusing.
Wait, it's what in the UK?
It's TK Maxx.
Interesting. Okay, same store though, basically?
It's exactly the same.
Okay.
I'd say we have less stuff, of course, and it's more expensive, but it's effectively the exact same place. But that was just weird to see. It just looked like it looks like I entered a parallel universe or something that was slightly different. Okay, so here's some of the pictures. I'm not going to show them, but I'll describe what I'm looking at. I went through the frozen section, and you could purchase and this is in Walmart, Jimmy Dean's French toast and sausage on a stick.
Yes. It's like a corn dog, but with a sausage in the middle and essentially a pancake around it.
It's just so American. Oh my God. Okay.
It's your entire breakfast in one handheld thing.
But nobody would eat that for breakfast in the UK. If you want to have pancakes, you'd have pancakes. You want to have sausages, you'd maybe have like a British breakfast, right? But you never like combine the two. And the fact that they're on a stick.
No, Ken.
Convenience food is just like times 10. It's just mad.
For us, you have to have your sweet type, bread-based breakfast piece. So your pancakes, your waffles, or French toast, and then whenever you get those, always as a side, you tend to have some type of egg set up, some type of either bacon or sausage, so some type of pig product, and then additionally some type of prepared potatoes. And often still with a side of some type of toast or English muffin or bagel or something. That's like a normal American breakfast.
I love on the packaging of this. It also says 5 grams of protein per serving in big letters, as if that makes it healthy. It's French toast and sausage on a stick. It's on a stick.
The stick is just the delivery mechanism. It just means you can heat it up and you don't need a plate or fork or knife to consume it. It is ready to consume as soon as you've stuck it in the, the microwave acceleration chamber that boils all the water in it to heat it up, and then you can consume it. Convenience, Ken.
The next photo I took was Tina's Burritos. These are in the frozen section as well. And they look kind of like, just a standard, you can get a burrito, whatever, I get that. We don't really sell those in the UK unless they come in like a ready meal container, which is like a big metal tray, and you'd heat it for like 50 minutes in the oven or something from frozen. And it's kind of like a special rarity because it's junk food, right? Like people don't really eat that very frequently. That's just seems like a studenty food or something. This stuff here, Tina's Burritos, 38 cents. 38 cents.
Nice.
For a burrito. That's just a madness. 38 cents. That's like 25 pence. That's just crazy. I think that was. Oh, I also found some noodles, which I actually bought some of because they are good to have as a backup. I found some noodles, some ramen, which was 18 cents a packet.
Yes. Now you got to see that's nothing, Ken. Until you've gone to a big box store like Costco or Sam's Club and bought them by the case, where you buy a case of ramen of like 48, like packages for like what, $5, $10 or something like that, where it goes down to they are beyond cheap, where you can get them for somewhere in the range of 10 cents each or something. That's when you're living.
I also took a picture of the syrup section because you have a section for syrup. It's not amongst like the honeys, which are next to the syrups, which are next to the jams, which are all together in one small area of the convenience store. There's like an aisle for syrup.
Well,
and
not for syrup. It was syrup.
You got chocolate. You got the caramel syrup. You got the Hershey's chocolate syrup. The Hershey's chocolate with strawberry syrup. You got the Nesquik syrup. You've got the I don't know, like what is sugar-free variety version, and so on. It's just. How and they're like this. They're like the size. They're like a liter. When would anybody?
Because it doesn't go bad.
Restaurants don't even have liters of syrup because nobody uses a liter of syrup.
You buy them. No.
It
is for the convenience of having one large container that you can store in dry storage, because syrup doesn't need to be refrigerated most often. And so with that, you leave it in storage and then use it as necessary, so you only have to buy it once a year type thing. That's the beauty of it. It's buying it in quantity so that you don't have to buy it constantly. And you tend to get it cheaper that way.
Yeah, I'm not complaining with the price. Price is very good here. I mean, admittedly, I'm not going to. I think the reason for that is, generally speaking, that the people who work in the factories that produce these things are either in countries that push less than minimum wage on their workers, or they're here on less than minimum wage, or their minimum wage, which is also
no. When you look at how most of our food products are created, it's because of mass manufacturing. It's because when they do these, they have these huge manufacturing lines that do almost everything automated, and so
and it's also because it's 98% of all ingredients with corn syrup.
Yeah, well, that's because that's the primary product of what we create in the States, and our government subsidizes it, and it was the cheapest way we can provide a sweetener and at the same time provide stimulus to the farmers versus doing something that is more natural and likely healthier for us as people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's if nothing else, Ken, as you venture forth into what is the United States, my perception is that you can get to the answer of almost anything, a decision as to why things are the way they are, based on money. And if you just follow...
Who's making money?
Yes.
Who's getting screwed over?
Yes. Yeah. And where a decision most likely allowed someone to make more money is probably the primary reason something happened.
So the next thing I wanted to talk about was a couple of the things that I got at Walmart. I've got them here with me, and I will show them. Some are interesting, some are rather dull. But some of them are just like price points, right? So this.
Hey, plastic hanger. I have a bunch of those in my closet from Walmart that look just like that.
Yeah. So in the UK, about a year and a half ago, I found myself struggling with, I wanted more hangers, right? And generally speaking, in the UK, if you want hangers, most people just buy clothing items with the hanger, and then you use that hanger.
Okay.
Right? Like, so it just comes with it. So you just say, "Can I have the hanger, please?" They say yes, and you just take it with you. And so you have a variety of weird, different, They're not the same. They're all hetero heterogeneous. The name. This is my field now. I need to know this. Heterogeneous coat hangers, right? So they're all different. Whereas here, in the UK, you get all these different coat hangers and stuff, and you'd have them all hanging up in your closet. And about a year and a half ago, I went to a couple of stores nearby trying to find more because I thought you must be able to buy these standalone. And I went to like 2 or 3 different stores, and I did this because I was appalled by the prices of each one. So, for example, in one of them I went into, it was £15 for like 10 hangers. And the next one, it was like £18 for 12. And they're like wooden.
I was going to
nice.
say, were these the nice wooden reinforced? Because, yeah.
It's because, like, in the end, I don't really care how nice something that's in my closet looks. It's only I see that. I don't bring my guests and say, hey, do you want to look at my closet and see how I hang my clothes? It's just for me, right? So, still, it was ridiculously expensive. And I was in Walmart, and I bought 50 of these for $2. For $2. That's like £1.70 or £1.60 or something. That's nothing. That's just
and now
absolutely nothing.
All of your hanger needs are taken care of.
Yeah, and that was terrifying.
And look how well designed those hangers are. It'll hold your shirts. It'll hold a lady's blouse. It'll hold everything. It's so well crafted.
So that represents the value point, right? That allows us to represent the variety. I picked this up today. This is Viking blood. If you aren't aware of what it is. In the UK, I tried 5 different stores to try and find mead. I only found, funnily enough, the one we were talking about earlier, Morrison's is the only place that sold mead, and it was called Gold's Mead or something. And it was like £4 for a bottle, and it was pretty cheap, and it was pretty bad. I like mead, so, I kept buying it because it was all that was available. I found on Amazon I could get more, but it was much smaller quantity, much more expensive. As you can see, this is quite a large bottle. I got this for $15.
Okay, I was going to say, is that a 1 liter-ish? Or how big a bottle is
1
that?
liter.
All right, that's about right.
I think it's 2 liters.
No, we go 175, and we usually go 750 milliliter. So 1 liter is kind of for those non-traditional liquors. And so mead is usually a non-traditional liquor size, more like a wine size. That's why I was guessing about a liter.
Yeah, so it's 1 liter or so.
Not that I'm a consumer or a connoisseur when it comes to alcohols.
So that was crazy, the variety. The fact that my first shop I went into, I already found a different version of mead straight away. And I saw that they had 3 different versions or so. That was kind of nice to see. Especially as mead is more of a European thing. So I'm actually kind of ashamed that Scotland didn't have more because, it's the world's oldest alcohol. You'd think that a bastion of tradition that is Britain would have more variety of the oldest alcohol, but it seems like they don't. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is something that one of the first things I bought here actually was in Walmart because I saw it and I thought I have to have a version of this. Of course, there is 300 types of barbecue sauce, right? So
that's just like, that's just Kroger brand, essentially. That's just big box brand, a honey barbecue. Yep.
Yeah. So because I know fine well that whenever I had sauce here in the US, it always tasted like 1,000 times better than the UK stuff because it's so unhealthy and it's
because we appreciate flavor. Where in the UK they just fry everything. It's still unhealthy, but they don't know what flavor is.
It's because ingredient number 1 is high fructose syrup.
Yeah,
right.
Tastes good.
High fructose corn syrup. That's why this. Yeah, it does taste good, but that's why this is why it's so enjoyable and why I only have it occasionally. So I bought this and I came home and it was my first night here, so I didn't have anything. Right, I had nothing in the house, so I had some Pringles and I put a little bit on a Pringle and I was like, my mind was just blown. I was like, the cheapest, crappiest barbecue sauce I could find, and it's like the tastiest sauce I've had in years. I was like, holy crap.
Oh my, do we have a world for you, Ken. Just wait until summer comes around and people start barbecuing around you and you get to go have some proper, everybody showing off their barbecue skills. Your mind will just explode.
We've got 2 communal big barbecues outside, bigger than anything I've ever seen in the UK. They're just for communal use. They're gas, they're gas based. They're not electric. You just go help yourself whenever you want to. It's just part of the rent. And I was like, that's madness. We don't have like communal stuff in the UK. If you rent a flat, which is what we call an apartment, you don't get any additional benefits apart from maybe like a secure door at the entrance. That's about it. But here, there's loads of stuff. I went to the club room today, and we have a pool table. We got a popcorn machine, an oven, a like 70, 80-inch TV that anybody can just go and use, and some other stuff. I was just like, this is a hot tub.
Oh yeah,
2 swimming pools
in the common areas.
What is this?
That is part of what you pay for, so that you can enjoy living in that, apartment complex.
I'm not complaining. It's nice and all, but it's just weird to me. I just don't quite understand. It's going to take a while to understand the culture behind it. Like,
is your hot tub available through the winter months? Is it open?
Yes, it's open right now. Yeah.
That's going to change your life on days if you haven't done that more. Being able to go out to the hot tub with the snow, such a wonderful experience.
Yeah. My problem is it's a 10-minute walk and it's past a major highway. That's the biggest.
So you drive there, enjoy the hot tub, and then drive back. Hey, when it is snowing out and frigid, you don't want to hike your towel over with you.
That's true.
It's for a very specific experience. Ooh, now you're speaking my language.
Creamer. We don't have creamer in the UK.
What?
So I've got both the powdered stuff and I've got this liquid stuff here. And in the UK, you use milk, right? And also, our milk is not. By the way, the level of quality that we treat our cows in the UK is vastly superior to the US. The milk here tastes not. It's not milk. You have fatty water. You have white fatty water.
Wait, you don't overly cook and pasteurize everything that comes out of a cow in your area?
Oh, we pasteurize it. We don't ultra like this, as it says on here. Actually,
well, that's not
pasteurized.
Yeah, I was gonna say
right. Ultra pasteurized. We don't do that in the UK. We just have pasteurized. Our milk only lasts 4 or 5 days, but it's fresh. We don't pump our cows full of hormones and chemicals. But here, I've seen the stats. The quality is incredibly different.
No, so ours is designed for shelf life. Our milk should last you about a month or a little under that, as long as you refrigerate it and such. Again, it's for a different purpose.
Also, your eggs here, they have to refrigerate.
I love how Kuro had just mentioned that in the chat, actually. He just brought up, he said, also, we refrigerate our eggs too. You guys just leave them on the shelf. What's that?
It's because the chickens in the UK actually have a nutritionally full diet and they're healthy. And so the shells of the eggs that they produce are not weakened, unlike the ones here, where they will actually become bad if you leave them out. Whereas in the UK, they're fine. You can leave them for like a month pretty much, and it's fine on the shelf. No problem. Here, they have to be refrigerated.
Yep, that's actually one of those things that has been a more common question about when we come to food standards here in the U.S., but one that I don't believe the food industry really likes us asking questions about.
No. I think it says a lot. Also, we've eliminated salmonella in the UK. It does not exist. You cannot get salmonella in the UK from eggs anyway. But here, I believe that I have to cook everything thoroughly because I'll get ill from eating this food.
So it can happen, but it doesn't happen as often as they warn you against. The problem here is that they warn everybody to an extreme, because if even a case comes out because people don't properly cook their food or something, we are more likely to have people sue for the company providing a product that could have salmonella in it versus they didn't actually prepare their food properly. Because of that whole our sue culture here difference kind of thing. But yes, pumpkin spice coffee creamer. So
let me go through the 2-phase process of me drinking this. Oh, actually, let me show you the coffee that I got as well. So with that new coffee machine that I got, I picked up some ground coffee. I just got the cheapest stuff I could find again, right? So like I said, I'm
oh gosh, you're going sweet on sweet. Hazelnut and pumpkin spice? Woo!
Well, yeah, right? So I tried this. This is just ground coffee. It's not got any added sweetness to it. It's just a flavor, right? And it's really nice. I'm really a big fan of this coffee. It's really, really fantastic, actually. I've rated over 180 coffees on a group spreadsheet between me and
friends. No, you are a coffee aficionado. Really?
Yeah, Yeah, I give this a 9 out of 10. It's fantastic. It's
Oh,
a really nice
interesting.
coffee.
I say we have a
Which I was really
lot
surprised by.
of variety of coffee here. Lot of variety.
Yeah, forward to that. So this is apparently Seattle's best. I don't know if that's
It's a
legitimate
brand,
or
but
not,
yeah.
it's the brand name, yeah. But it's really nice. It's a really nice coffee by itself, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I then added some pumpkin spice to it separately in my second cup, and I thought, oh my god, this is like that sweet, like when you go to a Starbucks, like this. I do this once a year, right? It's my once a year treat, and I always do this back to my old uni. As soon as my old uni started selling in the Starbucks, the Christmas lattes and stuff, the Christmassy drinks, I would go there and buy I can't remember which one it is, just one of the sweetest ones that they have. I'd get a large version. I felt covered in caramel and stuff, and I'd drink it, and I'd thoroughly enjoy my sugar milk that is flavored like coffee. Right, that's what it is. Right, but it's amazing. It's so tasty, and I love it. But it's like £4.50, which is like $7-8, right, for a coffee, which is crazy. But it's my once a year, like turn of the season treat, and I always look forward to it. This is the same thing. I don't need to spend that much money anymore because this is all sugar. It's just pure syrup, even though it's partly milk. It's all sugar. In fact, the first ingredient is sugar.
I don't know if I'd actually say that's milk at all.
I don't know. It's milk colored.
Yes, but look to see if there's any actual milk in the ingredients, because a lot of creamers are not milk.
That's a good question, actually. Oh my god! Oh my god! It says sodium caseinate, a milk derivative, and then it has a little star. So it's got a little warning in the bottom that it's like, this isn't milk.
Telling you.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh my god. I mean, it's delicious, but I don't know what I'm actually drinking. Right? I have no idea what it's in. But it's delicious, but that's the point, right? It's a nice treat once in a while. But I found myself tempted to have it more than once.
Because it's in your house.
I had 2 cups of this.
Because it's right there.
Now, this is my problem, right? Yesterday, I visited work, and so nearby is a Taco Bell, and we had Taco Bell for lunch, right? I've been there before, and I know it's super cheap, and I got the vegetarian option. That was great. And I was already not feeling great after that.
You don't get a vegetarian option at Taco Bell. Oh God!
I know, right? It's even at this point. I had 2 of these after that. Last night, I don't know what overcame me. I went into like a fugue state, I had like a mental like mini breakdown. I couldn't sit down. I had to keep walking around my apartment. I was so full of sugar and caffeine. Like, I drink a lot of coffee. Like, I drink a lot of coffee. That is not an issue for me. I guess it was the sugar. I guess it was the syrup. I guess it was one of the million ingredients in that stuff. I don't know what it is, man. But I was just agitated. My body, if I sat down, I just started like almost twitching. I was just walking around my apartment like this for about 20 minutes last night. All I have is my phone for entertainment, so I was just watching something.
Oh no!
This was after walking 25,000 steps yesterday. It's not as if I was sitting inside all day. I was very busy. I walked like a dozen miles, right? But somehow, like the food that I ate yesterday upset my body's like nutritional level.
Oh yeah!
My normal like stasis just suddenly disappeared, and I was unhealthy, and my body knew it. It was like, warning, something weird is going on here. Are you okay? You're entering a fugue state now, like Breaking Bad style.
No, Ken, I understand in a lot of ways, and I think what you're saying is actually very accurate in that, because people do not put enough value on what nutrition does to us. And I freely admit, and what you're hearing from me is, as I'm describing and understanding what you're going through, is a open knowledge of what I'm doing to myself. And this is a choice I'm allowing because of convenience and taste and things like this. Because I know what potentially I'm doing to my body, right? The challenge is, and this is one of the biggest, I would say, complaints in America, if we were to have any, have a philosophical discussion about it. But one of the challenges here is because people are so concerned with convenience, and we are so willing to allow corporations to make profit off of us, regardless of good, bad, or ugly, when you talk about the morality of things, that most people don't even understand what our food sources are available and couldn't tell you how to eat healthy or what things are good or bad for you in the United States. And so we most often rely on what's the cheapest, because while we are willing to spend large sums of money on our entertainment, our clothing, on things that we use to provide status or show, most people are not willing to invest a lot of money into the things that we put into our body. And I will say I suffer this as well, full knowing. I'm at least not ignorant of the fact. And so it'll be interesting to see as we go forward what your experience continues to be.
I think the key here is that the vast majority of Americans have become normalized to the state of food here, right? Walmart's ready meals, the extremely cheap restaurants, right? The Taco Bells, the McDonald's, the fact that you can have
the fast food, but yes,
tasty meal for a couple of bucks, right? Mm-hmm. And it's good. Like you will leave there feeling good about yourself. Like, my body is telling me that everything's great. You'll feel great. You'll have a milkshake that has more calories than your daily requirement, right? Yeah, you'll do this, and it becomes such a norm, part of the culture. Your friends are doing it, your families are doing it. You see everybody around you partaking in the same culture, and your body itself is saying, "This is great. I'm loving it." That you just don't care. You just don't care that it's terrible for you. And when I came here, it's not as if I was a paragon of health in the UK. I absolutely was not. I think most people would say that I'm probably quite unhealthy. I probably have too much alcohol in my diet, especially on Sundays. I probably have too many takeaways. I have a Domino's maybe once a month or something, which is probably too much. But here, it seems like the norm is to eat out and to have a takeaway and to have junk food as a day-to-day thing. It should be a treat.
Now, it is a norm, and a lot of it's been, again, back to, I think, what American culture really has become, and that is about convenience. It goes also into the things that we can talk about, how it is rare today to have a single-income household in families, because in most cases, both parents are working in some form. And so you even had then that ability for having people spend the time to actively go out and shop on a near daily basis for their meals and to plan and prep and have everything available for the family, almost doesn't exist in American culture in the United States. It's something where that takes distinctive effort and is usually almost only available for those who are a little more high up in class, that have a little more resource available to them in both the aspect of money and time. Because even for myself, even it's just me, but I have enough that I have to take care of my house and things like this just to maintain things so everything doesn't end up disheveled every week, that I am not spending as much time as I probably should making food. I make it a challenge for me where every week after the show, sometime between when we stop gaming and doing things like that and before stores close, I need to get to bed, going out and buying food to prep for the week kind of thing. And most often, I make food to take into work. I say make. Lately, it's been a lot of like sandwiches and things like that admittedly have breads that are processed, things like that. And that's another thing. And in general, one of the biggest challenges we have here in the States is that almost everything we have as food has sugar in it, has corn syrup or some level of sugar, even our breads and stuff. And that's something I hear a lot of times from my Aussies, who they come over and it's like, your bread tastes like sweet rolls compared to what we're used to. And it's something that one of the challenges, well, so that like if I'm buying barbecue sauce or ketchup or something like that, I know that is a sugar product. But when I would like to buy things like a bread, a grain, right, that's been processed into something that I can use as a vehicle to move other foods into my mouth, I don't have really a choice at getting a non-sugar bread in the States. That's one of the problems. We have
wholemeal versions that have no sugar, really.
Well, you can find wheat and whole grains and stuff like that, but there's still a surprising amount of sugar in our flour, just by default. And so I've heard it from a lot of foreign friends that have visited where they just feel like everything in America has sugar in it. Everything, even the things they would not expect. And so like our milk's terrible in that our milk has as much sugar as some sodas and things like that. And people are thinking, but milk is healthy, especially when it comes to our juices and things like that here, that forever in America, juices have been described as something that are healthy. But in reality, very little juice is actually directly out of the fruit and has all the actual good fiber and things like that. And instead, primarily is, stuff that has been squeezed down, concentrated, added a bunch of extra things to, and then rehydrated to become what we call juice. So there's so many things.
You drink. That's it, right? Like even in the UK, like we have juices and stuff as well, and people kind of see them as, yeah, they used to be advertised as like, oh, full of vitamin C and they're great for you and everything. There was a big court case because the company Ribena, or the product Ribena, kept saying that it was great for kids because it was full of vitamin C, and so mothers kept giving it to their babies. But eventually, a whole generation of thousands of kids, their teeth started to grow in yellow because they'd already been destroyed by the sugar in Ribena, right? Because it was not just a juice; it was a concentrate. So it was this fruit juice that was basically like syrup, like it tasted like syrup. I mean, yeah, you add water to it, but it's basically syrup, right? And if you give that every single day to a kid because it's good for them, right? And they grow in with yellow teeth, like half this whole generation lost their teeth. That's horrible. That's a really bad thing. And that introduced new laws in the UK about how they can advertise certain things.
That is one of the things I wish our country would take more advantage of. I'm jealous of the UK and Canada both for a lot of their truth in advertising laws that we just don't even bother here in the States because we allow corporations to say almost whatever the heck they want without any repercussion to whether they're lying to us. But heck, we do it in our politics now, so why not do it in how we do everything?
Right here in the UK, there would be 5 little numbers that would be colored green, yellow, or red. Red would mean that this is really bad for you, and you should have this as a treat once in a while. Yellow means it's okay, but you got to be careful and balance it with the other foods. Green means you should be fine. And it's usually the sugars and the fats and the salts that are the ones that are in reds and yellows. But you can see at a glance it's not as if it's like Scotland is one of the worst obese countries in the world, right? But at least we know.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I do not fault people in the same way for making. I mean, I fault them more directly as an individual, not the situation they're in, for making a conscious, educated decision about whatever it is they do in life across the board. The challenge is, though, when through whatever means the information you need to make a informed decision is obscured for any way, that's what I'm against. I'm against when a government allows and almost encourages, especially corporations who are there to make money on your efforts not to do anything good. If it's a publicly owned corporation, I argue against the idea that any of them are doing anything for the benefit of humanity. You might have an individual here or there who is trying, but as a corporation trying to make profits for stockholders, they're doing things to maximize profit. So with that in mind, I would like more regulations and laws and things to help the everyday average consumer have truth in knowledge of what they are getting, not letting companies obscure things.
I think if you go ask the average person what vitamin B12 does for their system and how much they need per day and what foods provide it, I don't think most people will be able to answer that. And that shows a failing in most education systems in the world. And that's a majorly bad thing, right? So also, I think what you were saying before about you can blame the individual person, and yes, you can. I think the only individual person we can really blame is herself, right? You can only blame yourself for your own education. But it's hard to, I don't think it's really fair to blame somebody else for their education, etc. And the reason for that is because of the sheer stats of the subject, right? If you look at the stats and I've had a lot of arguments with libertarians on the same topic, because they believe in things like, for example, seatbelts, right? There should be no seatbelt law because you should be free to choose if you wear a seatbelt or not. I mean, obviously, the easy way to counteract the argument is to talk about the fact that it's not just affecting your life, but if you get into a car accident and the guy behind you isn't wearing a seatbelt, tumbles into you and kills you, that's not his freedom. That it's his freedom impinging upon your life. So his freedom doesn't matter at that point, and that's why seatbelts should be mandatory, right? But I think if you go further than that and you start thinking about, in the UK, we have, for example, sugar tax on sodas. So about a year or 2 years ago, major brands like Coke, Pepsi, Iron Brew, all these things, which by the way is the number one selling soda in Scotland, the only place in the world that Coke isn't number one. Iron Brew and so on all had to redevelop their formulae because the tax would force the sodas to be so expensive that nobody would buy them. So all of them produced either sugar-free variants or allowed or changed the main formula. Right, that was the two things they did, and the stats have showed that it works. Same with plastic bag usage. We started taxing for plastic bags in Scotland. It's 5 pence to use a plastic bag in a shop. So if you want to leave there with 10 plastic bags, it'll cost you 50 pence. Right? It's something that we were just gotten used to. It was a little annoying at first, but it's just part and parcel. Here, I actually, when I go to Walmart, I said, "Do the carrier bags cost anything?" And the woman was like, "No," and she was just piling them up. I was like, "I don't need any. I've got my backpack." She's like, "Oh, don't worry, you just put them in your backpack." I was like, "Yeah, but it's plastic. Like, why use it when I don't have to?" It's a mindset, right? And it seems like the people here, and again, very anecdotal, but it seems the people here don't understand that, and that's crazy actually. Everything I bought so far has come wrapped like 6 times in cellophane, like 6 times over, completely unnecessarily.
Yep. Oh,
like,
there's a huge
that came in a cardboard box that had cellophane on the outside. Like, why? Why do you need cellophane? It's got cardboard box.
Because everything we do here, and we use plastic overly in the States, is again shelf life. We want things to be able to last years if possible, so that when you finally cut the plastic, it allows you to do it. Plus, it's cheap and it's convenient. I can wrap something in plastic and shrink wrap it very quickly and then ship it long distance without having to do proper strapping or other things beyond that. It's very easy. I agree. It's actually one of the better considerations when you talk about the difference between recycling and how most countries do it, where they take things like cheaply produced plastic and try to reuse them as often as possible, to going back to true recycling, like when all sodas came in bottles, which would actively be washed and reused originally and could be used multiple times, and the glass could actually be completely reformed, melted down, and redone, which was true recycling, and ended up with almost nothing in landfills, where today we have mass amounts because we rely so much on plastic. And so one of the bigger challenges is, in all honesty, we probably shouldn't use plastic in the United States or in the world for the most part, unless it's very specific pieces.
I genuinely believe it should be fully banned. And I actually have a couple of friends who are I've talked to them before. They're freaking, and they believe in, they don't buy things if they have plastic on them, because that's their pharma.
But one of the challenges is that it is a cheap thing, and it is a derivative of the oil industry. And as long as most countries still rely heavily on crude oil as a primary function of power, you're going to have the byproduct, which is plastic, and it's going to be used everywhere so that you're utilizing it, even though it then becomes garbage again. I'm a huge advocate of things like more hemp production and all the things that hemp can be done. And actually, as Kuro, as you bring it up about paper bags are a lot more sustainable, we used to, in the United States, only have paper bags. Back when my parents were shopping and we used to get things, it was all paper bags. That's how I covered my books for school. That's how, I made costumes as a child, as we'd cut holes in paper sacks and wear them as masks or armor and things like that. We had paper bags all the time. But they can produce such a mass quantity of plastic so cheaply now, again, all profit, that's what you see. And so, unfortunately, until we get an idea, and this goes back into harder, bigger political decisions that we will never be able to solve here on our show, but about what is the priority in the world about humanity and what we're doing on this planet versus...
The problem is not actually the politics. The problem is the politics is a reflection of the populace. And the populace of the US are uneducated and are unwilling or uncaring about the environment.
But I would also argue that the politics are designed to exasperate that issue versus to alleviate it, because it's all about, again, profit, and the profit of large companies making money off of people being fat, dumb, and ignorant and happy about it. That allows them to continue to maximize their profits at the negativity of people. And politicians getting their pockets lined too, to keep it into...
Of course. Speaking of people being fat, dumb, and ignorant, this culture of consumerism and eco-destruction for profit, I talked to 2 employees of a large supermarket chain in the past couple of days, and I've mentioned a few that I've been to, so I really don't want to out them because they seem like nice people. 2 of them, within a 5-minute span of me talking to each of them, just because I chat to people when I'm out in public. I talk to them about just stuff, ask them how they're doing, learn about their culture, that kind of thing. Um, Two of them told me about the fact that both of them had lost their spouse. One was in 1992 or something, and the other one lost theirs in 2010 or something. One lost their spouse due to diabetes, and they said that it was diagnosed, but they couldn't afford the insulin. And the other one told me that they got in a car accident, that they refused the ambulance because they couldn't afford it, and they eventually passed away. And it was just, you hear about this in the news, but I talked to these two people, and I was like, oh my God, this is my first day, my first couple of days here in the country, and I've met people who, their loved ones have died because of this for-profit culture for healthcare.
Yeah.
I just thought to myself, I wonder how they're voting. Who are these people voting for? Are they voting for somebody who's going to be pro healthcare for everybody, or somebody who's going to be for profit healthcare?
The challenge is, Ken, most of the people who are going to vote in such a way as to maintain the status quo that is today likely don't see the discussion in that way, and probably don't see it as the priority of what they should be voting on. You hear, because the way politics are framed here in the United States, different issues are always pressed, and other sides will vilify what could be different ways of looking at how to solve issues, simply to do the I want my side to win versus yours, the tribalism, the things like that, that take away from honest, good thoughts and, again, priority. Because the wealthy in this nation have done such a good job at convincing citizens of the United States that capitalism above all else is the only thing that matters, in such a way that they don't realize the biggest minority, I love this meme I saw on social media, the minority that is causing the biggest problem in this country are the wealthy. There's very few of them, and they are making it harder for everyone else in the United States to do anything well, so that they can maintain their lead and their control. And it's a weird thing to me to see people like just minimize issues that I believe are probably more important as humanity, as a race, as things like getting off of fossil fuels and, finding better ways to manage people's debt when it comes to things like education and health and food, which should probably be basic things that everybody gets out the door, and then find ways to work beyond that for people to find their luxuries in life. But things like healthcare, the ability to see a doctor in just a basic sense, should never be something that is outside of someone's price and ability to do. So that's something. All right, Ken, as we're going into this, and there's so many criticisms and things that we could do and discussions and observations about your transition here, I do want to take a break. Yes, Ken.
Can I do one thing first?
You can.
So I had the various products here, right? I had the sauce, I had the creamer and everything. There's one left, and speaking of horrible cellophane wrapping, I would not have bought this if I knew it came wrapped like this. I thought it'd be good to do a true American tradition here on air, so you can see me being super American here, which is eating a Twinkie.
Oh, God. Why would you do this to yourself? I don't even eat Twinkies.
I had a Twinkie, 5 years ago, and I can't really remember it. I remember being kind of underwhelmed, but I will try it now. You can hear the rustle.
Oh, man. Right. I don't know why you're going to do this to yourself, but all right.
Okay. So on first inspection, it looks weirdly moist.
Cellophane, man. Packaging.
Yeah. It looks like a slightly burned sponge cake. I see at the bottom there's been two injectors that have filled it with some kind of cream.
Yes. The inner something.
It smells like... Oh, God, what does that smell like? Almost like popcorn-y, or like raw popcorn.
Okay.
Glazed with honey. So let me taste this. Okay, super sweet.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that sponge is like 90% syrup, glucose syrup, I'm guessing, or corn syrup. That cream in the middle, that stuff there, that is a very good substitute for the idea of cow's milk.
I will tell you that also probably has no dairy in it. I will guarantee right
Yeah,
now.
that'll have yeah, that's like the whipping cream of whipping cream. What is that?
Likely a plastic byproduct.
Yeah, it's basically just a sponge cake which is filled with this plasticky cream. Yeah. So yeah, it's very sweet. It's nice. I'm enjoying it. Like it is actually enjoyable until I think about it. When I think about it, I'm like, Jesus, what is this?
Yeah, don't think
What am I
about what you're
actually
doing to
consuming?
your body as you do this.
Yeah. And the annoying thing is, I just wanted to buy one to try it and have on air, right? It came in a pack of 10, so I've got 9 of these things left over. I'd feed them to the birds, but I'd be afraid it would kill them.
Most probably won't eat them.
That's concerning.
There's
Is there ever? I know people do that with McDonald's videos where they get like a McDonald's burger and fries, and they'll take a video of it like decomposing over years and just show that nothing happens. Have you ever done that with a Twinkie?
Well, so that's the whole joke about Twinkies, right? Is that in an apocalypse at the end of the world, you will still be able to find boxes of Twinkies that look as fresh as the day they were made. Now, I think it's been proven that's not true, but they will last a surprisingly long time and probably still be edible. Now, what has also been... Well, again, it's not cream. There is no dairy in that.
Yeah, it can't be if it's going to last that long.
There's no dairy. But like with that example with McDonald's specifically, I love the self-hate you have on your face right now, which is very American. And so my mom did that to me. I've told the story before that while I worked at McDonald's and she had started her business with health supplements and things, she came in one day, the only time I ever recall my mother coming to McDonald's while I worked there to order something, and she ordered from me a cheeseburger. And so when she ordered it, I was like, this is my mother. I am making her the best darn cheeseburger I can. And so I very specifically got the freshest bun, the freshest meat, everything done to spec, which we always did, but sometimes things would sit out for a few minutes before being ordered and things like that, especially back when I worked. When I worked, you could keep things in a warmer up front for like 25 minutes or so before it had to be thrown away. And the idea there was when you would queue up for large rushes of people coming in. And so I made her a fresh burger, wrapped it, did everything myself, and presented it to her. And it wasn't until I think I got home that day or such that I asked her, I was like, so how was the burger? Right? And she's like, oh, I didn't eat it. I was like, what? It's like, no, it's up on the shelf there in the bag. I was like, why? She's like, oh, I'm doing an experiment. And so I did get to see that burger again 6 months later and took out of the bag and wrapper. And the only thing that had discernibly changed was that the cheese had essentially like shrunk to within the bun a bit. It had dried out enough that it had kind of like receded into the bun, but the bun looked like the day I made it and such. And so there were discussions about the preservatives and things and stuff like that in some of the foods out there, especially fast foods. Because again, the point of it, to minimize cost, especially in the cost of throwing away things that don't get utilized, and because of massive supply chains and how do you move things from where they're presented and built in a factory to all over the world for where they're consumed.
That's the thing.
It's how do you maximize it?
Yeah, I mean, over the years, preservatives have been very important, right? If you think about back in ancient Scotland, ancient Norway, and everything, with the way that we would always preserve our food was to either salt it or put it into like somewhere really cold, like underground, or both. And that was pretty much what you had to do. So the salting of beef or something, or the salting of sheep or mutton or something.
Yeah, that's classically how you preserve.
It had to be done because that's how you survive the winter, right?
Yep.
It wasn't a case of, oh, salt's bad for us, yada, yada, yada. It was literally like, it's now or death, and so we'll do it. Now we're saying this will make us 0.01 cents on top per burger, which equates to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. So yeah, we'll do it. Right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. And I think that's monumental difference, right? We should not be making that decision now. We should not be saying, yeah, let's continue. I'm not going to finish that Twinkie. We should not be making that decision of, I want to eat that. Like, I don't care if it's tasty. I don't care if it's convenient. I don't care if it's cheap. Like, save your money, Don't go buy your next PlayStation game. Don't go buy your next PC game. Don't go to the cinema and see that film when it just came out. Maybe instead wait for your, I don't know, like 50% discount or something that you get with a voucher or a coupon or something, and then use the rest of that money on buying some like organic broccoli or something. Because Jesus Christ,
Well, and you have, but here's the key, kid. You have to be careful about all of that, because the argument is even things that are marked organic are mostly BS. Because the actual laws in this nation, because the food companies have lobbied massive amounts of money to allow themselves as many loopholes as possible. And this is something I learned from my mom getting into the health supplements and being in a company that is actually legitimately trying to do good work, is not publicly traded, is all those kind of things. I got to learn a lot of truth about food and the kind of things our bodies need to be successful. And even when it comes to organics or natural or anything with those labels, look up the actual laws that state what does it take for a company to be able to legally put natural on their label or organic. Most things are very loose, very loose.
Yeah, the word natural just means it has grown, right? I mean, like,
part of it, at some percentage of it, at some point, came from something that grew. Yeah.
Or even the word like meat, right? Meat is kind of a loose term as well. Right?
Well,
like
anytime you see anything that says product, so like a dairy product or a meat product, tells you that there is some percentage that qualifies as such. Now, there are ways around this. In Earthweaver, my brother brings it up in the chat about local markets, farmers markets, things like that are a valuable place to go to, because most local markets will not put in all of those various things that large corporations do to make money. It'll cost you more, but you're more likely to get real things. Places like Whole Foods or Sprouts, natural grocers tend to be better about it, and a lot of them will put out information that shows for them, even though the label may say such, they may take it a step further to allow things in their store. So there are ways to do it. But again, that gets outside of convenience and cost. And so really it goes back to prioritize what is actually important to all of us in life. And admittedly, no negativity for people who know these facts and make the decision to go a cheap and convenient route, because sometimes that's the most important thing you can do for yourself. There are times where you need to focus elsewhere, and it is okay to give up some of that, true health in your life for a bit. But be aware of it.
You are your own man and woman. If you choose to eat whatever you want, you can go and do so. You are welcome to do so. I am not judging you. You can do as you please. I simply understand that the majority of people in this country and the world are not educated, and I'm not educated in the majority of things that we should be doing for our health. And I think that should change in general as a whole for the will of the people. I'm not saying that they should have their freedom taken away and that what they are allowed or not allowed to do. I just think they should know and accept what they're doing to as high a level as possible. That's all.
Well, and that's what I say. I go back to, I'm all about making sure people have an easier time being informed to make their own decisions. And so you will hear me advocate for more regulation on companies and more truth in what they are allowed to label and put things out there to say this is what this really is versus what they want you to be marketed as saying it is. And so that is my stance on the world when it comes to it. Let me as a consumer have the choice and information.
Absolutely. Do you wish to take a quick break, sir? I don't need one, but if you do, that's okay.
Just a real short one. In fact, I may change out, I may end the music early. I do need another drink. My throat otherwise will start sounding differently. Sure. So let me do that, and we will get back with more adventures of Ken in America. And maybe we might have a little time outside of that, but we'll see what we get to beyond that. So with that, you're listening to Show X on twitch.tv/VTW Show X, as well as you can catch all our archives on YouTube. And we will be right back after this break.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. on btwproductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. That was a little bit of OC Remix's Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Going with was it Blobby Bob Disco OC Remix from Jive Master. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one during the break. And I admittedly brought that up because some of the news I did have for this week talking about some of the movie things out there, and one of them being the Sonic movie. So I wanted to play that one in this break. But anyhow, Ken, do we need, or do you have any other very, like, on the cusp right now stories you really wanted to get out there since we're in the last probably 20 minutes of the show today?
No, I think that's much everything. The last thing I really want to mention is I'm actually going to probably be, well, we'll see, but it looks likely that I'll be driving to Canada, to Toronto, this Friday.
Really?
To go pick up one of my dogs who's getting delivered to Toronto.
I was going to ask,
because
I was going to ask because I wasn't sure if Tank had come with you, like I believe was the original plan.
That was the original plan. I'm kind of glad that he hasn't, actually, because this would have been a very difficult process if he was here. Because I wouldn't be able to leave the home at all, which would be incredibly boring right now with
It'd make the transition a little tougher. I can understand that. Well, with that in mind, Copy is going to be almost along your route, heading up there, slightly out of the way, but as you head that direction, not far off of where you'll be going.
Shoot me a message. Let me know any details if you're interested. It'll be this Friday or maybe next Friday. We'll wait and see. It's supposed to be this Friday, but things are starting to slip a little bit, so we'll see.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes, because know that Turkey Murder Day is coming up for us here next week. And so as you're running into holidays, one of the other challenges is anything around, at least in the States, Thanksgiving tends to be one of the most expensive travel holidays for people flying. So be aware of that in general. You may get away from that.
There'll be a dog flying, which is a flat rate.
Oh, and that's what I'm saying. So you may not get stuck with that, but those are just some of the things I'm aware of. And general thought of anyone who has to fly through or into Chicago, avoid it because that airport shuts down for everything. Anything weather-wise, they shut down constantly. It's a known joke we make here in Denver because I have folks who, whenever they fly east, have to go through Chicago, and half the time their flights get delayed or canceled. So, just general knowledge. All right. Well, thank you, Ken, for giving us your introductory exploits into Coming to America Scottish edition. I was quite.
We have 3 the show to talk about.
Hey, this is a big deal, and I am quite entertained by this whole discussion and process. And it sounds like from the mass amounts of chatter we've had about our subject today that you can't hear, can't see in Twitch. I think everyone else has enjoyed it as well, and I openly say on the mic.
Are there any highlights?
What's that?
Are there any highlights of the chat that I should know?
Oh gosh, there was discussions about every piece of the way, from talking about ways we acquire our foods and stuff to Copy at one point when talking about, I want to say it was when you were either talking about your creamer or some other part was like Ken, or it might have been the Twinkie part as well. It was like, Ken, no, oh my God, Ken's American now. And to discussions about
what's the American the Canadian store, the famous Canadian
Horny Tim? I mean Tim Hortons?
Yeah, Tim. Yeah. There's one nearby. I need to go to sometime soon.
You're up north enough that you will likely have Canadian influence coming this direction across the border as well. It's not that they're amazing, but they were a nice change and difference from what America usually has for options when it comes to coffee places and like some of those general baked goods and things like that. I love go to Timmy Ho's. Every time we go to Anime North, I make sure, it's right there and we eat there multiple times. So Timmy Ho's is good for me. At which point Kuro did mention, I wish we had a Tim Hortons. We also had discussions in there about just people looking forward to going to Timmy Ho's. We'll talk about the juice and such. What are some of the other ones that came up that I thought you might care to? I know my father, when you were about to consume the Twinkie, had a big "No, Kenneth, lol," and so.
Did you say your father?
Yes, my father has registered and started following us today as the term going in the chat by Dad of the Doc, as he is termed in there. As my parents are no longer chained down by a physical address, as they have fully transitioned into now having their RV and living, as I keep telling people, as nomads today. Although they think they are currently in Nebraska, as they're still sorting off last things. And then everyone else in the chat has labeled him as Doc Dad. And so that has come through.
I was going to say, I was going to say something. Your real last name, but maybe I should hesitate soon doing that.
Well, jokingly.
Welcome to the show, sir.
Absolutely. Well, jokingly, I've always said the moniker I go over as Doc Dad was very much related to my father, because when I first used to log into our family computer to go to IRC chats, when he had some chats and stuff, he went as Doc or Doc Hart or something like that, various things based on his profession. And so I kept hearing the Doc or seeing it around places. And so when I chose my gaming handle, my first and only, I wanted something that was during the Quake days. And so when I went Doc Dead as a Doctor of Death, delivering that in FPSs. And so that's where I kind of got it. So that is actually fairly appropriate. Cool. But yes. And so he is listening in now, and thank you for joining us today. But let's see. I'm trying to decide. I had my little bits of stuff I did. I don't know if any of that really matters. I'm trying to think if there's actually some news that's probably more poignant or things to get into.
Oh, I'm interested to see how you've been up to, sir. Please do tell.
So I didn't have a ton for my dysfunctional deviations this week. I was going to bitch and complain that I went to the doctor the other day because my neck, after 2.5 years, is still bothering me daily. At least finally got them to give me a proper x-ray and see that there's no degenerative like bone damage or anything in my spine. So it looks like more just spasming and tight necks.
No strange, horrible things.
Nothing that's overly there. So the recommendation being more, I need physical therapy type things to hopefully manage it. So I've got scheduled stuff for that. And I've been doing some stretches that have helped take off the biggest edge. Because I did have some days in the last week where, my left arm would start going numb. And my hand pretty much lose feeling due to the pinching of nerves and such. So decided I should probably get all that sorted. And Earthweaver's actually saying that my parents are en route to Kansas City today after he had visited them for some time. But that aside, I was going to talk about a few shows I had been watching, or a show and and a movie that I've seen. And I'll have more because I've been consuming a lot lately. But I finished watching both seasons on Amazon Prime of the show Jack Ryan, which is, talking about basically a modernization of the old super spy story of the character Jack Ryan, who famously an analyst who got into a lot more shenanigans than probably a normal analyst should. And my main comments of it, I was entertained throughout both season 1 and 2. They provided some what would be good modern issues for people to deal with. I liked how they did that. It made it for me feel like they very much earned the series and story they provided. I thought their presentation, especially overseas and kind of people that they were working with in the first season being a Middle Eastern antagonist going into it, was really well done. They provided a level of understanding to the villain in this series. And just they didn't pull any punches, really, is what I liked about the series. While it is still in many ways an exaggeration of, I believe, the truth in that it is a spy-type show, they still keep it as close as I think as they can to what is probably actual. I think most people don't realize how boring a lot of this kind of work really would be. And so it is a bit...
I was just going to say that, actually, yeah. I mean, spy work, if it goes to explosions and gunfire, you're not doing your job right.
It's a bit of an exaggeration, and they do put Jack Ryan into the CIA role, which gives it closer to where those kind of things would actually happen. But events leading up to are kind of silly. I was very appreciative because they did film a lot of things on site almost everywhere around the world and in the States, so they did do some things at Langley at CIA headquarters. And it's fun because I've been there. And so they do the classic walk across the seal that they have and up through the turnstile type thing. My funny thing is because I've never gone in those doors. I've gone in from a different direction, where most people actually come in from other entrances that are closer to their office. And so I have gone past and looked down at the seal and the steps, but never come through that way.
That's cool, though.
But it's interesting
to see.
Yeah, it was interesting to see kind of their representation, what they showed of it. And even though I'm sure it wasn't an actual office that they modeled in CIA headquarters, the representation of their office space I was appreciative of because it was way more close to reality, where they had analysts working in cube farms, with multiple monitors on their desk and that kind of thing. I was like, see, that is way more like how things really work, the look and feel of stuff than what people imagine things can be. And so I was appreciative of that kind of thing. But the action's solid. It is violent. It is bloody. They show people get shot, exploded, you name it. They show people being cruel. And so it's not for the squeamish, but at the same time, it's not gory in the sense of being over the top. It is just more of those movies, those things like The Saving Private Ryan and stuff in the world where it's meaningful because it's accurate. And so I like a lot of what they showed in that thing. I enjoyed the first 2 seasons. I hope they make more. I believe they are. I recommend people go check it out if you're into those kind of action spy things. And it's on Amazon Prime, so if you've got a Prime membership for any reason, you've got access to it. Check it out. The other thing I went and saw just this I saw it yesterday, actually, I think. Weekend's blur. But I took a quick day trip down to Pueblo, Colorado, to go visit with a friend of mine down there so that we could go watch the movie Ford vs. Ferrari, which is a new...
I've heard good things, actually. New York Times were saying good things about it.
Well, and it's something that I will say I enjoyed it a lot. It tells a story of essentially, and I keep forgetting the name of the character that Christian Bale played in it. But in it, I really appreciate that it was more a story about... he played Ken Miles. So it's Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles are the main... It's really a story of them as friends and going through the time frame of which time that Ford made the decision to get into the Le Mans race and try to beat Ferrari at their game. And so I've seen a lot of documentaries about that time frame and what Ford did to make the old GTF, the GT40, the original race car that they made. And this doesn't get into all of it. It's not a documentary. It's really a character piece and a story about those two individuals, their friendship, their personalities, and the kind of things they did. And in that, to me, it was really wonderful. Because there was more they could have gone into, and there's more story around it. But for me, that was really a neat way to present it and what they focused on. And told a wonderful story. And man, the cinematography. Because it's one of those weird things where I like cars, I like racing, I like things like that, but I have never really gone and watched races other than the Pikes Peak Hill climb. Because for most car events, I would probably be bored to tears watching like NASCAR, especially going around an oval, that kind of thing. But I said...
Hoping somebody dies the whole time.
Well, it's like so many things where you hope for the action moments, like watching a hockey match and waiting for the fights. And so with it, much like how earlier in the year I talked about Netflix has a wonderful series about Formula One racing that they have about the 2018 season that is just epic, and I highly recommend to people. I want more pieces like this that show more of the impact of how drivers have to actually interact to be that much of a hyper athlete, to be able to react in the ways they do and make the decisions they do. And just the thing about so much of what I love about cars and racing and performance, they capture in there really well done. It's beautiful. I think the acting's wonderful. They present both of those characters in ways I think is true based on what I've heard about how they were in life, their personalities. And so I really enjoyed it and do recommend it for anyone who enjoys cars, who enjoys racing, and in general, just it is some good acting across the board. There's some genuine, just good moments in it. And so, yeah, I really had a great time checking that out. Those are two things I just checked out recently. And there's more. I've got a bunch of various shows and stuff I've been kind of binging here and there when I've been stuck in my house recently. But I wanted to bring those two up, as those are recent.
Speaking of the Amazon Prime series, Jack Ryan, have you watched the other Amazon Prime series that's quite big just now, Lore?
I have not seen Lore. So there's a bunch of Amazon Prime stuff, right? And because I watched all of Carnival Row, which I talked about and really enjoyed. And I've had a few people keep recommending things to me. And it's funny because I'm jumping between Amazon Prime, Crunchyroll, and Netflix, back and forth between them all, seeing these different shows, depending on what kind of catching. A lot of comedies I've been watching on Netflix, several different series that kind of depending on where, like the new third season of The Toys That Made Us just hit on Friday, and I have yet to watch an episode, but I can't wait. I know in this episode this season they do My Little Pony, they do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones I saw real quick highlights on, and people who haven't seen that series, I saw those guys at San Diego Comic-Con and love the way they present information about some of the toys that were absolutely in my time frame for growing up with. That my family, these were the toys that were in my house and loved. And so they catch stories in ways that just blow your mind, that it's amazing that some things ever came to light, ever came to exist in the way their decision. They make such good stuff. The other one I wanted to bring up, because I don't think actually my geek cred matters this week as much, but I have seen the first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. The Disney Plus show that is the new Star Wars series that's out.
Is this animated? It's animated, isn't it?
No. This is live action.
Oh, I'm intrigued now. Okay.
And I will admit, I have not gone in and checked like all the background to what was coming out in the series, other than I just watched the first 2 episodes. And so far, I'm in. Like, it feels Star Wars in a better way than some of the movies have. And because it's a series and it's focusing on specifically Mandalorians, the whole what we know from Jango and Boba Fett in the movies, and more lore in what was the extended universe, this, I'm assuming, and I say this because I've yet to go look it up, I'm pretty sure it'd be a really quick search to find out truth. Essentially, it looks like The Mandalorian is taking place back in the past of Star Wars, prior to any of the movies we have seen thus far. And I say this because, you know, famously, The Mandalorians, when it gets to what most people have seen with Boba Fett from the originals, was essentially known as being like the last. Like, Mandalorians are gone pretty much, and Boba Fett's kind of the last of. This is taking place in a time frame where there is a whole clan, essentially, of Mandalorians together. And it's...
All right, so what exactly does it mean to be a Mandalorian then?
It's a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing. It's kind of like what you would say about a race of individuals. And so there is... It is genetic in the sense that you are a Mandalorian, as far as I understand. And again, I have not done the research on, because I've always appreciated, but I've not read all the Mandalorian stories. So I don't know it all off the back of my head, and I could be wrong, and feel free to geek out and tell me better. So interesting. Hando is telling me that he says it takes place after Return of the Jedi. That, from what I've seen so far, I would say can't be true. Unless it takes place in an area that doesn't exist anywhere amongst what I've seen. But it could. It could actually take place in that's where I wasn't sure. And now, granted, Disney is changing the story completely from what we know from stories and what has been accepted as lore. So if it does take place after Return of the Jedi, it makes sense in a world that doesn't exist outside of the movies, meaning the books never happened, right? Because in this, there's a whole clan of Mandalorians that are happening. And it feels good. The story being told is one I'm interested in. I like the main character thus far. It feels very Star Wars-esque in just everything I'm seeing. And because it's not a movie, it's being able to spend some time on specific scenes and things, so it doesn't feel rushed. It just feels like it's at a natural pace and is telling a good story so far. And it's nice because the visuals in it are solid. I can tell where some of the effects are at that premium television versus movie.
Right, that's my exact question was going to be, does it feel like a film or does it feel like a TV? Okay.
It feels like premium television, right? Even like I would say about Jack Ryan. Jack Ryan is filmed as a series that has a movie feel to it, even though it's a television series. This has that feel. It's not full on like, I can see where they use CG, where in otherwise it was likely they would have been doing practical effects to make it look more real, where they did use CG, but it's not bad CG. It's good CG. And so it looks like they're really putting forth effort in the presentation of this series. Because it is so fresh and so new and so few people have probably seen it fully, because you do have to have Disney Plus or friends that do to go share in the experience to go see it. And I am of that camp of people who doesn't need another streaming service in my life that I pay for. So I've not committed to Disney Plus yet. Although my social media shows, I would guess a majority of the people that are on my social media stream have chosen to subscribe and be part of it.
Well, some people in Walmart were talking about, well, I got there when the store opened, so the employees there were like shouting to each other across the store, and they were talking like, one of them was saying like, "Oh, girl, when I get home, I'm going to watch so much Disney Plus, I'm just going to watch it all night." I was like, "All right."
So that's the thing. I have heard a lot of people basically doing that. And I can understand why, because they have brought forth a lot of movies as well as some of their new programming. Although the new programming is still light and getting started. You know, I saw people who were like, "Oh my God, they've got Gargoyles! I'm gonna binge all of the Gargoyles series. I miss it so bad." It was a good series. That was a good cartoon. To some of the classic movies and things, and little discussions and news about how Disney, and I'll give them credit for this, put up disclaimers over a lot of their shows and movies that basically stated that, hey, by the way, some of the content you see here may have some, what was it? The subject matter or the way things are presented may not seem as appropriate by today's standards, but it was what was the norm back then. So please take that into account. The old idea that if you look...
to educate yourself on how our culture has evolved and improved over time. Yeah,
let's avoid some of the cancel culture and the judging everything of the past by today's very different standards, and trying to adjudicate things today that happened 20, 30 years ago that had nothing to do with today. Yes. Oh, even longer, 50, 60 in some cases. Yes. But yeah, it's one of those things that it is interesting that as a company they were kind of forward with that. Because yeah, you go look at some classic Disney films and think about it from a very hypersensitive consideration today, where you're almost people that are almost looking for situations to come up, and you will easily find things that you could get offended by. You know, if that's what you're out looking for, you can find it. In fact,
I mean, like then it was racial stereotypes. But that made sense for the consumer base back then and the culture.
Well, it wasn't that it was racial stereotypes. It was that was how culture saw certain things. And so it wasn't that they were doing it bad, good, or ugly or whatever. It was just a reflection of what was now and what was available. Yeah. And that's the part that I hope people are aware of.
It's kind of like the Asians are smart and good at maths thing, right? It's not necessarily a dig. It's not necessarily bad per se, but it's still certainly discriminatory, and it's still not okay, right? Like, just because it's not offensive doesn't mean it's not incorrect and wrong. Yeah.
Whoops, that is not what I was looking for. No, it's yeah. It is
a brief discussion about the streaming service side of things. I've been seeing a lot of memes going around the internet with something that I very much agree with, which is people going mad over the fact that, you know, we now have Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, YouTube Red or whatever it's called, and so on, and Spotify as well on top, right? All the streaming services for video and for audio out there. It used to be the case that when you had cable, that was the pain, right? You had to pay extra for your sports. You had to pay extra for your documentaries, for your kids shows, for your on-demand TV. And it got to the point where like your monthly bill could be like $120.
Way more than that. People direct TV I know and getting NFL ticket were paying like $200 something a month.
Madness, absolute madness, right? So you're paying all that, but then Netflix came in. People were like, "Oh well, if we have Netflix, we have YouTube. Don't need much else. That should do, right?"
Thus, the cutting of the cord and getting rid of traditional cable and satellite services for internet.
Yeah, it was a really nice thing for us nerdy people at the start, and eventually, you know, our parents and our friends, and eventually most of the community started cutting the cord, or at least adopting it alongside, so they have Netflix as well as their cable at the very least.
Yes.
But now we're getting to the point where streaming services are so varied. You don't now just get Netflix, which has everything, like a conglomerate like Steam. You instead have these various services which you need to pay each month, and you end up paying again 120, 140, 160 bucks a month, so that you get all your nice Ultra HD versions of each, right?
Yep.
And you start thinking to yourself, I miss back when I used to get all this stuff for free.
Well,
and well, not for free, but like, you know, much cheaper.
When it was one easy package.
Exactly. I think what this is going to do is encourage in the future us to return to the middle grounds, the unethical potential.
Well, the gray market has definitely is growing again. It's the meme that I've talked about in the past where the child or the person who kind of goes forward and has this pirate hat in their hand that they're heading over to a case for to put it in the case saying, you know, oh, we had such good times. And it talked about the previous time of cable and internet, or cable and game distribution are the main ones. And with the advent of Netflix and the advent of Steam, people going like, well, now I don't need a pirate anymore because it is convenient for me to acquire all the things I want at a reasonable price point here. And there's other benefits as well. I will stop pirating. I will start spending my money on your content because it is now easier for me to acquire it in one place. And now that we have this divergence of all of these different things, the fracturing of the market again, and it's starting to become a hassle where I've bitched about it on the show multiple times, having to have multiple launchers up just to keep my things ready to play, which I hate to do. I shouldn't have to have 5 different things active on my computer constantly to be able to game. It was nice when I could just have Steam and everything would update. And one store to go to and one manager to find it all. And so now, same thing with entertainment. I used to be able to just go to Netflix and YouTube and get everything. Now, with Hulu, they had fractured it for a while, but now with Amazon Prime, which at least you get it with something you're probably already paying for, but now with Disney Plus and them having ESPN on it and things like that, and the concept of like CBS Prime, all these other things where even though networks are doing it, I would now have to pay out all this additional money to get individual content. People, the meme goes back where he's dusting off said pirate hat and saying, oh, I've missed you, old friend. That whenever you make something too difficult or too expensive to do, people will find ways around it. That's the lesson.
I think that is especially, and it's like back then it was us nerdy crowd who first moved away from cable into pirating, and then moved from pirating into streaming and Steam and these other conglomerate services. I think that group is also going to be the same one that returns to pirating because it's still available. Yes, Pirate Bay has officially been taken down. The 3 proxies of it that exist are still
readily available. Torrenting is something that can be done is just distributed pure services that are both legitimate and illegitimate. There are still Where sites. There's still FTP sites. There's still so many ways to acquire things. Yeah. And so we will see what the market does and what happens. It'll be interesting as so many things keep pushing. All right. We are past our time for today that we have been talking. Thank you very much, Ken, for providing us all of the entertainment with your transition here into America, into the United States. I keep trying to be specific about that because you're both transitioned into the Americas and more specifically the United States of America. Keeping you in mind, copy.
I have joined the majority of our listener base over here because that was always the anomaly, right? Like being in Britain, we only ever had like 1 or 2 British listeners. Like they're pretty rare. We've always been a very much an American show and America's show. So I think it's appropriate that we're both doing the show. And hey, I just did the show at EST. How weird's that? Like it's 4 p.m. It's bright outside.
Now you see, I believe though it should be Emma. Are you? So when you started the show, was it 1 or 2 your time?
2.
Okay, so you are EST. Okay, I wasn't sure with you. I didn't look on the map to see if you're EST or if you're going to be Central, and so I wasn't sure which you were going to be. Awesome.
It means we say show X is at 2 p.m. GMT, 7 p.m. 2 p.m. EST, 7 p.m. GMT.
Yes.
We don't need to say that anymore. Now we can just say this show's at 2 p.m. EST.
Yeah, we still say GMT because we have a worldwide audience, and a lot of people are aware of that. No, but with this, as we get ready to transition out for today, I do want to leave because we were talking about a link for you all that you can watch right after the show. I will probably jump in the Discord after this, and you're welcome to join me there. That as we were talking about that interaction between the difference in ages and such that kind of happened over the years, and all these different generations that are out there from, what are considered the greatest of generations back, the boomer style thing, to Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z kind of things that have come out there, millennials and all that. A wonderful, for me, throwback video because he's still making content and I love it. So there's a YouTube link that I provided for my friend Foamy the Squirrel, which I shared on social media, talking about one of the new trends today when you hear people say, okay, boomers. And I actively recommend everybody go check that out. But with that, you've been listening to Show X on VTW Productions and on Twitch and YouTube today. Ken, could you lead us out, and then I will put us to bed for this week.
Sure thing. You've been listening to Show X live on Twitch and YouTube and wherever else you may have done so, including the MP3, which is available, I believe, at 2 p.m. EST, which is weird. Thank you very much for joining in for the pure American Show X, 100% American.
All American on the outside, a little bit of Scottish on the inside.
Absolutely. There's a little whiskey still sloshing around my stomach, I'm sure. Thank you very much for tuning into this show today. We'll be back hopefully next week in full strength in terms of technology-wise. We'll see, though. We'll be sure to check us out and help us out in the various different places that you can do so. That includes twitter.com/VTW Show X for the show itself's account, Dr. Ken Reed for my own, and Doc Dead for Mr. Wayne's here. Check out all three. Check out the show's one specifically for updates with the show, like we've gone live, that kind of stuff. And our other two are for our personal stuff. So check that out for random ramblings. You can also find us on YouTube. You go to Versus the World videos on YouTube. You can subscribe to us there. That's much appreciated. You can find us on reddit.com/r/showx. Give us a subscribe. Every single show is automatically posted there, auto-magically posted there. So if you want to have any post-show discussion, you can do so there. You can also email the show, though we very rarely use it now because we have the Show X chat here.
Hey, I am logged in every time. I am happy for people to, if you have something that comes up during the week that just catches your interest, you want to make sure we address it, you want to share your geek cred in a longer format than just a quick message in the live chat, feel free to jump in and send us an email. I have it up every show, and I'm more than happy to bring up and read your emails.
Absolutely. And that's showx@VTWRussians.com. Please do send us some emails there. And it's good for pictures and stuff as well if you want to show us what you're up to or whatever, as well as tell us. You can also support us on patreon.com/showx. You can donate a minimum of $1 per month, which is $12 a year, which is a little bit more expensive than that coffee maker that I got today. You can probably get the coffee maker and the creamer for that price, actually. So you can donate that amount of money to the show each year, or you can cancel it earlier if you want, whatever. And we appreciate all the help there. That helps keep our servers alive. It helps keep the software, the hardware, all that stuff. I'm actually about to have to buy a new microphone stand because the previous one was already very much broken. It was sort of resting next to me whenever I've been in the show the past couple of months. But now that I didn't bring it with me for obvious reasons, so I need to get a new one soon. So any support there is always welcome. Patreon.com/showx. You can also support us in a technically in a monetary way, but it's also helpful for you. Instead of just giving us cash, you can also actually sign up for audiobooks. The URL, I believe, is tiny.cc/showxbooks. If you type that in and go along to that link, you can sign up for Audible. If you do so, you get one free audiobook, and there's absolutely no obligation for you to stay subscribed. You can cancel if you so wish. It makes no difference to us, no difference to you. It's up to you, and you can spend nothing, and it'll still support the show. And you get one free audiobook. Personally, I love Audible. I think they're a really good service, and I actually do recommend staying subscribed. And literally, I never once sat down with advertisers who said, you must say this thing. That did not happen. This is me telling you as an individual, this company is providing a service that I actually enjoy. And it also benefits us by you doing this too. So, if you want to check it out, please do. It's tiny.cc/showxbooks. If that link doesn't work, feel free to message me and I'll find the real one. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much everything. Thank you very much for tuning to the show today. We do appreciate it, especially with the mobile phone format that I've been on. Like I said, back full strength next week. I'll be in Discord after the show because I've got nothing else to do with my life. Literally nothing else for me to do today. Wayne, is there anything else you'd like to say?
That's pretty much it. So thank you, everybody, and we will catch you again next week. So with that, we're Show X, and we are versus the world, but not you. We're with all of you. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again, and we will catch you next week. Bye.
Goodbye. See you next zombie.